Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Anthony Salas, and on behalf of the American Marketing Association, I want to welcome you to today's webinar, which is our members-only webinar, The New Frontier of Sales. As a member of the AMA, I'd like to remind you that the value goes far beyond today's presentation to professional development opportunities, access to the AMA's Career Resource Center, popular networking opportunities via professional chapters, and the latest thinking and emerging trends via our website and publications. So be sure to take advantage of all of the offerings to get the most from your membership. Before starting today's presentation, just a few quick housekeeping items to go over with you. We are recording today's full webcast and we'll be making it available to you very soon via an email with a link to the recording, so look for that coming your way. If you have any technical questions, you can type them into that chat area in the lower left of your screen. And if you have questions, also type them into that area and we'll add those to our list that we'll pose at the end of the presentation. Also, if you're able to join us on Twitter, we would appreciate your engagement at #AMAMOW. So feel free to send out some tweets as the presentation goes on. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker joining us today, Peter Strohkorb, who is the CEO of Peter Strohkorb Consulting International, a business consulting firm that specializes in lifting sales results by showing sales and marketing teams how to work together more effectively. His vision is to create a world where sales and marketing functions work together as one team to the benefit of all stakeholders. Peter is a popular speaker, MC, and facilitator, a guest lecturer on sales and marketing alignment in the Executive MBA program at the Sydney Business School and to the MBA Masterclass at the University of Wollongong. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Peter to start today's presentation.
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you everybody for joining me today on this program. And I hope that you will enjoy my topic, which is Smarketing, the New Frontier of Sales. And I'm going to talk to you today about what is Smarketing and why we need to master it and why we need to master it today. So let's go. As Anthony said, I've spent quite a bit of time working in large multinational organizations in both the sales side and the marketing side. And I've consistently found how the two teams don't work as well together as they might. And so that's inspired the passion in me to do something about it, and I've developed something called the One Team Method that is specifically designed not just to make them work together and to get the collaboration in place, but also, and very importantly, to make it last, and to make it last beyond just the head office. So that's called the One Team Method because we want them to work together as one team. I've published a book with the same name. It's available on Amazon. It's called The One Team Method, and I also speak internationally on the subject of Smarketing and sales and marketing collaboration. I'm an executive mentor and I also facilitate internal meetings and workshops and so on. As Anthony said, I'm a guest lecturer at university where I talk about sales and marketing collaboration, and we have broken new ground here in Australia, whereby we have actually introduced the topic of selling into the executive MBA program at the university and the Sydney Business School here, and that's a first certainly for Australia, if not for the Asia Pacific region. And I know that in the USA there are only a few universities that actually have selling implemented in their curriculum. It's quite astounding, but we're making progress on this front as we want the sales function to be just as highly recognized as the marketing function in industry. In my private life, I'm a family man. I'm married with 3 lovely children, not so lovely at times, but most of the time lovely. I play soccer, tennis. I like cooking, entertaining. I like entertaining with fine wine. And on the other end of the spectrum, I'm quite fascinated with what's happening at the largest end of the spectrum in the cosmos, in the universe, and also at the very small end of that same equation, namely in quantum mechanics. That doesn't mean I'm a genius. I just have an interest in that. So that's enough about me. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. namely, what is marketing? So I've got an agenda here for you. So we're going to talk about the definition of marketing from my perspective. Then we're going to talk about how does it look at the moment, the collaboration between sales and marketing. We're going to talk about how marketing impacts the buyer's journey, how it impacts the customer experience, and why and how marketing is effective, and where you can find additional information if you're interested at the end of the session. The first thing I promised I was going to do is talk about the benefits of marketing, and there are numerous, as you can see here. Let's start with the financial ones, because that's the ones that most executives are interested in. You know, what's in it for me in terms of dollars, and it will have an impact, and I will show you how, on revenue and profitability, which then leads on to benefits in cash flow and building up your assets. So that's the financial side. In terms of customers, if you look at it from a customer's perspective, marketing will deliver a much nicer customer experience, get you more customer engagement, and lead to higher customer satisfaction, which means that you have happy customers that will then have benefits again on the bottom line, as you can imagine. But that's not all. Marketing will also create an environment that's just much nicer to work in, and therefore it'll improve your staff morale. And an organization that's set up so that people help each other and support each other is much nicer one to work in than an organization where there's lots of blame and finger pointing. And the fact that a collaborative organization where people are trying to help each other will attract a much higher caliber of people to the organization. So that's to attract and retain top talent. And then last but not least, it'll make you more competitive in terms of people will say much nicer things to you about your organization online. It'll give your organization much greater agility, as you will see. Much higher resilience to change, so you change more quickly and you do that better. And whatever business technology you already have, CRM, Salesforce automation, marketing automation, you know, all those sort of things, the utilization and the ROI on that investment will just be much higher. So we've got financial, customers, staff, and competitiveness all being improved through the methodology of marketing. Let's talk about it. So what is our challenge? The challenge is that we have a sales organization that's talking to our customers, and we have a marketing team that's talking to our customers, but through different channels. The risk for us is that if they're not talking to each other as well as they could, that the messaging at this end becomes confused and will turn the buyer off. So that's the challenge, and that's what we're trying not to do. So what is marketing? Well, as many of you would have guessed, marketing is a combination of sales and marketing working together as one team. Hence the term marketing, and hence the name of my book, The One Team Method. Now, a lot of people that I work with, I say to them, you know, are your sales and marketing teams really working together well? And I get different responses. And the different responses usually are along these lines. So I'm generalizing here, so please forgive me if that's not representative of your particular situation. But the response I usually get is that the salespeople say, yes, we could do with more support from marketing, you know, or sometimes they use stronger language than that. And marketers say something like, oh, we've heard that this problem exists, but not here, not in our organization. No, we don't have that problem here. So there's a bit of denial going on. And I really think that marketing people have no reason to be fearful of saying, look, things are not as well as they could be, because it really represents a fantastic opportunity for marketers to get up, be seen as a leader, and to say, I want to take this bull by the horns. I'm going to do something about it. Who's with me? You know, and I think there's a fantastic opportunity for marketers to step up and really take on a leadership role in this very important nexus. So let's then talk about what do sales and marketing say about each other. What have I heard? So firstly, why do they talk to each other? Why do they talk about each other? And that's because we have a marketing function and we have a sales function. But if you look at all the different steps that sit between marketing, looking at the bigger picture and taking a broader approach to the market in terms of brand recognition and thought leadership and positioning and targeting and segmentation, that sort of thing, versus sales where they really are looking at driving the sale to an endpoint where we can actually have a transaction and the buyer actually makes a purchase. So the marketing has a broader horizon outlook, and sales has a really pointy outlook on life where they will just want to get to the end of the sales cycle, which is as it should be because that's their job. But if you then look over here, I've collated a little table that says what are different functions that both sales and marketing can undertake, and then I've tried to give it a bit of weighting here, saying how much is on the marketing side, how much is on the sales side. What I'm really pointing out here is that there are lots of functions that overlap between sales and marketing, and therefore we really need them to work together as seamlessly as they can in order to get from here to here and to get the buyer through their buying decision. Okay, but they may have overlaps and they may have similarities, but they're not the same. So I sometimes joke that this is a picture taken at one of my recent workshops, but really it's just an illustration to say things are not always well between sales and marketing. And it's not just me saying that. If you look at this Gartner paper, and it's dating back to 2007, so it's coming up to 8 or 9 years old. Even back then, Gartner said that there are benefits in getting sales and marketing to collaborate. And then that was then followed up with a paper by the Harvard Business Review. Interestingly, the paper is authored by Philip Kotler, who's a famous marketer, and Neil Rackham, who's the forefather of methodologies, sales methodologies. They went together with Suji Krishnavami to write this paper on sales and marketing collaboration. Now, they didn't call it ending the gap between sales and marketing or ending the disconnect between sales and marketing. They used a word that's far stronger in language. They used the word war, ending the war between sales and marketing. Now, I can't really think of a stronger word to describe a relationship between people, and it's kind of telling that they chose, out of all the words that they had available to them, they chose the word war to describe this relationship. So there are problems in this area, but that's the bad news, and the good news is that we can do something about it. So just to give you some examples, in my many years working in sales and marketing and then as a consultant, I've heard lots of people say different things about the sales and marketing teams. So here's a snapshot of a few anecdotal lines that I've heard marketing people say about sales. And I have to say, these are actual lines that I've actually heard coming out of people's mouths myself. So it's not hearsay, these are actual quotes. So it's, why won't they call the damn leads? We create all these leads for them and then just don't follow them up. Now, we want to talk to their clients because we want to give them a marketing message, but they're so protective of, in inverted commas, their clients. We have all these nice systems that we've set up for sales to use, and why won't they use them? Why don't they use the damn CRM? Why don't they use the Salesforce automation that we give them? Why don't they use the marketing automation? And then last but not least, this is the most common complaint. Why won't they talk to us? We're happy to engage with them, but they're not talking to us. And basically, a lot of the lines that you see here imply that the salespeople are lazy and they don't want to use our leads. Now, I don't think that's representative. I'm just giving you some examples of what I've heard people say. On the other hand, what do salespeople say about marketing? Why are they giving me all these useless leads? I want leads where the customer's ready to buy now. Why are they even talking to my clients, without asking me? Why is there so much marketing collateral and I can't find the thing that I need when I need it? And why can't they just give me the content that I need? And my favorite line is this one: sales brings in the money, marketing spends it. They should be working for us. Yeah, and of course that's then leading to potential conflict as well. But things are changing. A change is coming. Now, just to backtrack a little bit, we used to have this thing called the sales cycle, which is where the salesperson identified some suspects, went to the suspect, turned them into a prospect, and then eventually turned the prospect into a client, into a customer, and then the cycle repeats. In this way of selling, the salesperson is in charge, and the salesperson is in a hurry, and the salesperson is trying to drive the sales process forward. But what the internet has done to us is they've changed the way that buyers buy. So we now, as a consumer or as a buyer, we go online, and the first thing we do is we inform ourselves on our choices and options that we have, what products or services we should look out for, how much we should be prepared to pay, and kind of who are the 2 or 3 best vendors that I should talk to. And depending whose statistics you subscribe to, between 60 and 90% of the decision making is completed by the buyer by the time they have a short list of vendors that they want to talk to. So it means they spend all this part of the journey here researching online without talking to the vendor, and then when they're ready to talk to the vendor, they've already made up to 90% of the decision making, and then they want to talk to a human being. Now, what does this picture tell us? It says that while they're in the research phase here online, they're actually in the arena of marketing, because marketing is usually responsible for the online presence of the organization. So they're squarely in the marketing arena. As they then contact a warm-blooded salesperson, they then move obviously into the arena of sales. Now, the thing that's really important to note here is that transition needs to be absolutely seamless. Imagine if you go online and you spend all this time researching a particular product or service, and you say, yep, I really like these 3 vendors, I'll contact them, and then when you do, the salesperson tells you something completely different, and there's a disconnect at this point, this point here, right, where the vendor, where the buyer goes from the online world to the offline sales world. And if we have this disconnect at this point here, then there's instant loss of credibility, instant loss of faith and trust in the organization, and the buyer will go somewhere else because they have that choice. So it's absolutely important these days that this overlap here between sales and marketing happens absolutely seamlessly, and preferably to a point where it's not even noticeable by the buyer. For them, it's just a natural transition from the online information they've received to furthering the conversation with the offline with a real person. So that's why marketing is so important, because if this transition here fails, the whole sale fails. Okay, now why is that important? Apart from what I just said, I just want to backtrack a little bit. We used to have a competitive advantage in terms of price. We used to say we're the cheapest, but nobody wants to be the cheapest any longer, because that's where the margins get ruined. Then we used to say, okay, we've got better features, and then we used to go talk about features and price, and that was a sale usually based around hardware and what does our product do and how much does it cost. Then we said, okay, we want to compete on superior service. So we want to provide a better service to our customers, so that when we sell on features and price, that they're not disappointed when they buy the thing because we're not doing the right thing for them. More recently, people have said we want to go one step further, and we want to have be competing on the subject of customer experience, or CX for short. Now, what does that mean? I want to start this off with some statistics on customer experience from around the world and also from North America. So this will be interesting. And the reason I want to do that is that here's a little slide that I've borrowed from the internet, and it's without going into all the details. What basically it says is that organizations who are successful in providing superior customer experience find that they are financially far more rewarded than those that either don't compete on customer experience or those that don't provide positive customer experience. So basically what this slide says is that there's a strong correlation between financial benefit of the organization and a high delivery of customer experience to the customer. So it pays. Which is also why Gartner says that by 2016, 89% of marketers expect to be using customer experience to beat their competitors. So it means that nearly 90% of CMOs want to use customer experience as their differentiator. Now, ironically, it seems to me that if everybody's trying to compete on customer experience, firstly, that should be a fantastic thing for buyers. But also, if everybody's trying to compete on the same basis, that'll be a really interesting picture to see what happens then. But it's an important field, and nearly 90% of CMOs are driving for improved customer experience. So here are the statistics. 80% of CEOs say that their organization delivers a superior customer service. Have a quick little guess to yourselves of what you think that figure is from the customer's perspective. So 80% of CEOs say, we're delivering a superior customer service. How many of the customers agree? Here's the answer. 1/10. So 80% of CEOs sit in their corner office and say, we're doing a fantastic job, but only 1/10 of their customers actually agree with them. So there's work to be done on that front. Here's another one. This one's probably more relating to B2C, to retail, but how many of the customers' buying experiences are based on how the vendor makes them feel? And this is a study by McKinsey. We know it's a high figure, but in this case, it's 70% of buying experiences are based on about how the customer feels. So how do you make your customer feel when they're in your world, when they're coming off their research and they're contacting you? How do you make them feel? Do you make them feel welcome? Do you make them feel wanted? Do you make them feel cherished and special? Now this one, I've put this man climbing up a wall as the image because this is a very critical one. This is a very hard one. Let's say you have happy customers, and let's say you have less happy customers. How many of the dissatisfied customers will actually tell you that they're dissatisfied? Have a little guess. Is it a high number? Is it a low number? Is it somewhere in the middle? Here's the answer for you. You will only hear from 4% of your dissatisfied customers. That means up to 96% of customers that have had a bad buying experience from you or have had a bad customer experience from you will not even tell you. They will just quietly walk away and you will never know. You will never know that they were dissatisfied. They will just disappear. And this is a frightening statistic, particularly if you think about the first one I showed you about the 80% of CEOs who are sure that they're delivering a superior customer experience. Now, the risk is that if they're blindsided with this figure, blindsided with the fact that they're actually not providing a superior customer experience, and blindsided by the fact that 96% of their customers will just quietly walk away without making a noise and without letting them know that they're not happy, then that's a real risk to the business. This is not something that's just in the realm of marketing. This is in the realm of the executive because it's mission critical. So speaking of customer experience, let's talk about what customers expect from us. Now, here are 7 things that I've collated for you that basically say, do these things for me and that'll give me a good customer experience. So Don't talk down on me. Make me feel like I'm in charge, like I'm valued, and I'm precious to you. When you make a promise, keep it. Don't give me any problems. Just give me solutions. Don't tell me you can't do something, or no, it's not your job, or it's not your department. You've got to transfer me to somebody else. Don't give me your problems. Just solve my problems, and not just make me feel like I'm in charge, but also show that you care. Not just make me feel like you care, but show me that you care. So when something happens, fix it. And that's actually related to the last point, number 7 there, that if something happens, be quick to do something about it. Be quick to act or react. Otherwise, I'll be going somewhere else. Be equitable, number 5, means basically that we want you to be fair. Don't make it one-sided, make it fair, and fair to me. And number 6, don't use any sneaky tricks or surprises. Be very clear about what I'm getting, and then just give it to me, and I'll be happy. So here are 7 basic things that we need to keep in mind when we're talking about what is a good customer experience. What does that mean for business, though? It makes it very complex. So if you think about the 7 things here in the first column, right, we have these 7 things here that we talked about. But if you now look at how does it translate into the business systems across the different business units in the organization, then that makes it fairly complex already. So you can see how there's quite a complex matrix. And by the way, there's more columns here than, so I've just called this back office, but of course there's finance and there's all sorts of other things in the back office. So actually this slide should extend much further to the right, but I ran out of space. So we've already got a fairly complex structure here. But if you now look at within each of these business units, we'll have people, we'll have processes, and we have technology. It becomes very complex very quickly. And that's why CX management, customer experience management, is actually quite easy to talk about, but it's not that easy to implement. So when we hear about 89% of marketers wanting to implement it and compete on that basis from 2016 onwards, they have quite a bit of work to do until they get there. So now let's talk about why and how marketing is effective. And I mentioned to you that one of the benefits of marketing is financial. So let's have a look at what that looks like in terms of financial terms. Here's a comparison. Now, I just need to explain this to you a little bit. So we have a base case here. So we're buying a product. We're buying a product for $100. It costs us $60 to buy. So when we sell it, we make $40. Then we have some fixed costs. And if you subtract the fixed costs from the gross profit that we're making here, then the profit for before tax is $10. So we're making 10% margin on the revenue. So we're selling something for $100, and at the end of everything, we've got $10 left. All right, that's our base case. So now I've got 3 different scenarios here that will say to you, okay, what happens if we reduce our direct selling expense by 5%? This is where the sales manager comes into the talks to the sales reps and says, don't spend so much money taking your customers out, your prospects out to lunch or to dinner, and don't schmooze them too much. It's all costing too much money. We want you to reduce your direct selling expenses by 5%. Well, if you're in that situation, you can hit them back with this, because you can say for your 5%, it only saves 30 cents in the dollar. So therefore, it's only a 3% return on your investment. So instead of making $10, we're making $10.30, and the 30 cents out of $10 is only 3% improvement. So reducing your direct selling expenses is very popular, but it's actually not very effective. What happens though if we increase our sales volume or our sales productivity improves by 5%? So now we're selling something not for $100, we're selling $105 worth of goods, but because we're selling more goods, we also pay more in terms of the cost of goods sold. And ka-chink, ka-chink, at the end of it, we're making $2 more, which is a 20% improvement over our base case. And we get a 4 times multiplier effect by just increasing the sales volume by 5%, increases our profitability by 20%. That's why I call it a 4 times multiplier effect. Now, this is not my, I didn't invent this. This was actually done in 1992 by a couple of people from the Harvard Business School. Steve Hindman and John Strohkorb did this, and it's been a quite well-known formula, but I'm just showing it to you here because it's not, even though it's well-known, it's not very well recognized. Now, let's have a look at what happens if we don't increase the sales volume, but we raise our price by 5%. And this will explain why your CFO, your financial controller, your finance director will say, come on, you can charge a bit more, you can charge a bit more, you know, and this is why marketers are always keen on increasing the margins. So we raise the price by 5%, meaning that by now we're not selling something for $100, we're selling something for $105, but we're still selling the same number of stock items, so we still pay the same price, the $60. Then ka-chink, 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 we're getting $15 at the end, not just $10, which is a 50% improvement on our base case, and so you get a 10 times multiplier effect by increasing the price by 5%, leading to a 50% improvement in profitability. So now you understand why financial people are on your backs and say, come on, you can get more margin. Personally, I think that in this day and age, where it's, you know, we're living in a super competitive world, increasing your prices will probably lead to a drop in sales, not necessarily an improvement in bottom line. So, but that's why I think the middle case, increasing the sales volume, making your salespeople sell more, helping your salespeople sell more, will give you a good result and a better result than trying to save costs. And that's the point of this here. So if sales and marketing work really well together, you get closer to these scenarios than to these scenarios here. I hope this makes sense. If not, please feel free to ask me questions at the end. Now, I just want to talk about how do sales and marketing teams collaborate today. So what we did in 2014, we went and researched 185 B2B organizations, and we just basically divided them into 2 camps. We divided them into one camp that's called what we call growth organizations. So those that grew their revenue over the preceding 12 months, and non-growth organizations where the revenue either stayed the same or even went backwards. And then we compared their sales and marketing collaboration between those 2 groups. And what we found was that over 80% of organizations that had a decrease in their revenue, so the non-growth organizations, over 80% of the non-growth organizations were operating in separate sales and marketing silos. Now that's significant for us because it shows that separating sales and marketing does not deliver financial reward. And here's an explanation of why that might be. In the 70s, there was a man called Thomas Allen, actually Professor Thomas Allen now, he's at MIT, and he worked something out. What did he work out? He looked at an organization, and in this case it was a bunch of engineers, and he looked at how often do engineers communicate with each other in comparison to their physical distance, i.e. how far apart are they from each other. So, and then he plotted this graph here, the now famous Allen curve. And the y-axis here is the frequency of communication, i.e. how often do they talk to each other. So the higher on the number, the more often the higher on the line, the more often they communicate. And on the x-axis here, it says how far apart are they from each other. So very close here, and very far away here. Little communication, lots of communication here. And then he plotted the curve. Now, you might have expected that curve to run linear, so go from, I'll draw it, go from here to here, but that's not the case. What happens is that the curve actually goes anti-logarithmic, and it drops off very quickly. So what it means is that when you're sitting together in the cubicles, you can just lean over the cubicle wall and say, hey, Joe, what do you think of this? And Joe can say, oh, yeah, that's fantastic, or it needs more work, or, you know, it's terrible or whatever Joe might say. But it's very quick for you to have a quick conversation with Joe and say, and then get his opinion. As Joe is further away, let's say he's at the other end of your floor, you have to get up, you have to walk over there, you have to talk to him, and you go, I want to ask him. If he's on a different floor in the same building, then you've got to take the lift down and talk to Joe, and you go, no, I won't do it. And if he's in a different city, in a different state, in a different country, it all goes further and further apart, and the communication just drops off. Now, the significant thing is that the communication actually drops off very rapidly. So, human beings, we're a bit comfortable, and we don't go to the effort if the person is further and further away. Now, you might say, but that's just if you have physical face-to-face communication. But now, we've come a long way since the 70s, and we've got technology now that helps us be connected much more effectively. Well, I have to tell you that they reran the experiment in the 21st century, and they used the example of telephony. So they said, okay, well, look, instead of walking over to the other end of the building, I can just pick up the phone. Or instead of taking the lift down to the next floor, I can pick up the phone. Or instead of traveling to another city, I can pick up the phone. To their own surprise, they found it doesn't make any difference. If we go, hey, Joe, and lean over the cubicle, we can just do that quickly, and we're quite happy to do that. If we have to pick up the phone and then Joe's not there, and then we've got to leave a message, and then he's got to come back to us, and by the time they come back to us, we've forgotten what the question was, or we've moved on and already made a decision ourselves, the same curve holds even if you use technology to overcome the tyranny of distance. So that's the famous Allen curve, and that's my hypothesis as to why we have over 80% of organizations that are not financially successful operate separate sales and marketing silos. So put your teams together, and just by the fact of physical proximity, you will get an improvement in collaboration. Now, what does it look like in terms of business success and failure more specifically? This is from our research, and we have, again, a graph for the organizations that experienced revenue growth versus those that didn't. And here are 14 things that we recommend you put in place between your sales and marketing teams. So 14 processes or 14 initiatives that we think you should have in place between your sales and marketing teams if you want them to work well together. Now, let's not worry about what those 14 things are for now. But what we did here is we asked the marketing people in those organizations that had experienced growth and the salespeople that worked in those organizations that had experienced growth, do you have these things in place in your organization, yes or no? So it's very black and white, yes or no, do you have those? And then we did the same thing for the non-growth organizations. And the way to interpret this graph is that the more the orange line and the gray line meet in the middle, the more aligned they are. So now, if you look at the whole picture, you can see that by and large, the lines meet much more in the middle for the growth organizations than for non-growth organizations. In fact, in some cases, we have complete disagreement over whether these things are in place or not in the non-growth organizations. And it just, the outcome of this research basically shows that if you're working in an organization that has good, high quality, effective sales and marketing collaboration, then your chances of being positive in terms of revenue growth terms are twice as high as those where the collaboration between sales and marketing is not so good. So let that sink in for a little bit. If you have sales and marketing collaboration that's effective in your organization, you're twice as likely to make more money than otherwise. Twice as likely, not just 10% or 15% or 30%, twice as likely. It's a really significant finding of this research. The next thing we did then was we said, okay, a lot of vendors come to you and they say, just buy our technology and everything will be magically fine. And this just goes to show this table here just goes to show that that's just not the case. So again, we've got the two groups. We've got our growth organizations in orange and our non-growth organizations in gray. And we've looked at how does that compare to the technology that they've implemented. And we find that pretty much everybody has CRM. No surprise there. But what was surprising is that those that had Salesforce automation plus lead management, marketing automation plus all sorts of other CRM, they didn't do very well. So the ones that had lots and lots and lots of technology implemented were presumably overwhelmed with the technology, because we're saying that perhaps there's such a thing as too much technology, perhaps too much too soon, too much too quickly, too much all at once. Whereas the ones that kept it fairly simple and very focused, so that they had their CRM system and maybe some sales enablement software, some collaboration software, they were by and large in the growth field. So the lesson from this slide here is be careful how much technology you put into your organization, and be very focused on what you're trying to achieve rather than being overwhelmed with what you can have. And I have to warn you that I've seen a lot of technology vendors who get you very excited about all the different data and inputs and forecasts and everything else you can have. But the problem is that when you put all this technology in, it may not give you the result that you're looking for. So just be very careful about how you go about this, and I'll be happy to give you some advice on that if you want. And why is that so? It's because if you start off putting technology into place and then defining your processes and then pushing it onto the people will not be happy. As human beings, we don't like things that are being imposed on us, and we don't like to be told you must use this or else. And if you look at a lot of CRM implementations and the way they're done done from a vendor perspective, they're done from a product perspective, they're done from an IT perspective, where the IT department goes and implements it and then expects the users to use it. And then when the users don't use it, then they go, we need to give them more sales training, as if that's really the root of the problem. The root of the problem is that a lot of business technology is implemented the wrong way around. There's a statistic by, I believe it's Accenture, that says that some 80% of business technology implementations do not achieve their stated objectives, their stated business objectives. 80%. And that is, in my opinion, because they're done the wrong way around. So marketing and sales and marketing collaboration requires a holistic approach, meaning you've got to look after your people, your process, and your technology in that order. And why is that? Well, because collaboration is better than isolation. People working together, it just makes sense. It's just much nicer. It works better. It just creates better outcomes. It's a no-brainer. But then how? What we want to do is we want sales to help marketing to understand what actually works for the salespeople, what actually works for the sales force, and then make an informed decision on how marketing can better help sales. So it's not about sales telling marketing what to do and marketing doing it. It's about them working together and each playing to their own strength, with sales focusing on selling and marketing focusing on marketing, to better support each other. And we call it a virtuous cycle of collaboration, where they actually work together and each plays to their own strengths. Now, the way we want to work is we want to talk to the people and get them to agree that they work together, and they say that, yes, collaboration is better than isolation. And yes, it makes sense, and there's something in it for me if we actually work together. Then the next thing you move on to is you say, okay, how do we work together? What are the processes that we want to follow? What are the metrics around those processes? What does success look like for us? And then, once you have agreed all this on the people front, you can then talk about what technologies can we use to support all that. There might be your CRM, your collaboration tools, your Salesforce automation, your marketing automation, and whatever else technology you have coming in. There's all sorts of products on the market, but don't be bamboozled by the technology and what it could have. Make sure the people are aligned first, agree to the processes, which makes them actually become part of the solution, and then implement the technology to support the people. Don't do it the other way around. So let's look at the steps to marketing. So we started off with this picture where we had sales talking to the market and we have marketing talking to the market, but if they're not talking together to each other, then the risk is that the customer will just become confused and walk away. And remember the statistic about the 96% of dissatisfied customers that just quietly walk away and never tell you. So what we want is we want constructive feedback to go from sales back to marketing, saying this works for us and this doesn't. And we want effective collateral, leads, and campaigns going back from marketing to sales to support sales. But we want both of those to be in contact with the market and with the customer to get constant feedback and saying, is it working, is it not working? So just looking internally at your organization and saying, we're just going to be interested in the relationship between sales and marketing alone is not enough. If you don't include the customer in this and make it a 360-degree cycle, you're only looking at half the picture and you're leaving out the most important part, which is your customer over here. Right? So make sure that whatever you do includes the customer's perspective and creates a supportive process between sales and marketing that makes both parties support each other. And what that then leads to is this yin and yang of sales and marketing working together in marketing as one team, which brings me back to the one team method that basically takes you from where's my arrow? Okay, I'll do it. Draw. That takes you from here to here. And how do we do that? Well, there's a different set of mindsets. So initially, sorry, let me start again. There's a spectrum of sales and marketing collaboration maturity. So how mature is your organization in terms of sales and marketing collaboration? And we differentiate between a silo mindset where you have the sales force having an executive up here and marketing having an executive up here, and those two are talking to each other, but underneath the people are just not talking to each other. So we have this silo mentality where it's us sales and them marketing, or the other way around. The next step then is often led by the vendors. We'll say, okay, we'll put in Salesforce automation, we put in marketing automation, and we have a lead generation process, and we have marketing generated leads, and we have Salesforce accepted leads, and that will solve all our problems. Well, I'm very sorry, folks, but I think it doesn't. It just leads to a process mindset where we say, yeah, okay, sales and marketing will work together. All right, yeah, we agree on all the definitions of what is actually a lead and how do we move it from marketing to sales, and how can marketing create more leads that sales accepts. I'm sorry, that's not collaboration. That's just working along a singular one-dimensional process, and it's based on a process mindset. What we want is this yin and yang here. We want collaboration between sales and marketing so that it's more holistic. It's not just about leads. To me, it's a crying shame if marketing is only seen as a lead generation engine. There's so much more to marketing, as you know, as marketers, than sales lead generation. There's the whole branding, there's the whole recognition, there's the whole thought leadership piece. There's just so much more that marketing can do for the organization and for sales than just generate leads. So I really dislike a lot of the vendors coming in and saying, just put our sales lead generation process in place and everything will be fine and your CEO will be happy with you. It doesn't actually solve the underlying problem of people not collaborating with each other. So we want to work on a people perspective and get people to naturally work together and just want them to work together and do that happily and support each other, and then that'll give longer lasting success. So we're coming to the end of the presentation. I did at the beginning promise to you to show you how the benefits of marketing impact finance and how they impact your customer satisfaction, how naturally organizations that have a collaborative mindset are just much nicer to work in and they attract a higher caliber of talent, And then it makes us more competitive because the customer has a better experience and they won't walk away. They'll be, if they have a bad experience, they might be in the 4% that tell us, and then we can do something about it. But with the help of marketing, they should have a much nicer customer experience so they don't even fall into the dissatisfied camp. And then what you can see here is that as we roll out marketing, first thing that happens is that insight into the organization, what's actually going on in our organization, and what happens if we change things, become much clearer. Then you will see how the people working together will actually improve. They actually be happy working together, they will work together, and it extends beyond head office, which is often a problem when you try to implement marketing, is that the people in head office go, yeah, okay, we'll do it. But people away from head office in different states or maybe even different countries who are not physically connected and are affected by the Allen curve will find it much harder to comply. But the next thing then is that business productivity and in particular sales productivity improves, which is the whole aim of the game. And then we find that as sales productivity improves, then financial benefits improve as well. So we've got this really nice sequence here where things get a lot better very quickly once we align sales and marketing. So let's then look at where can you get some help if this becomes of interest to you and your organization. And you can find more information on my website. So that's peterstrohkorb.com. And there's lots of free things here, so including you can apply for a free consultation. There's a free check where you can actually go on the website and check what the state of collaboration in your own organization and in your own mindset is. And then there's a free self-test in terms of what should you expect in terms of ROI as well. So there's lots of free information on the website. Feel free to have a look at that. Now, are there any questions, Anthony?
Yes, Peter. Actually, we do have some questions that have come in. Definitely want to get to those. But first, just really quickly on behalf of the audience, I want to thank you for all this great information. It's been really quite insightful. So just want to mention that before taking the first question here. Kind of putting all of this together here, question is, are there any real success stories where this has worked or anything that you can talk to a little bit more about kind of applying all of this?
Oh, great. This is a really great question. So first thing I should mention is that the One Team method, even though I'm physically located in Sydney in Australia, the One Team method is available globally. So it's available in your region as well. A lot of it is done online, and we're very happy to talk to your people locally as well. I do have a US-based office in Atlanta, Georgia, so I'm very happy to talk to you people about that. Now, the thing is that people often ask me and say, oh, what vertical markets does the One Team method apply to? And I always have to say to them, it's not really a matter of what industry do you work in. Do you work in financial services, or do you work in mining, or do you work in retail, or whatever it is. It's a matter of people. And it's really more the size of the organization that matters. So I've got this wonderful line that the CEO of an Australian organization gave me once, and he said, there's a gap between sales and marketing. The larger the organization, the larger the gap. I think it's just so simple and fantastic that I'll just keep re-quoting it. So in terms of where have we done it? Well, we've done it in the pharmaceutical sector. So there's a very large, very well-known pharmaceutical organization that makes a blue pill that you might be familiar with, that has really benefited from the One Team method here. There is a manufacturer that is actually quite an interesting story, because I thought they would be interested just in the Australian landscape. So I spoke to the Australian VP of sales, or CP of sales. But he became so excited that he wanted then to say, okay, well, can you do this in other countries as well? And I said, yeah, of course we can do it in other countries. And he said, can you do it in China? Can you do it in Cantonese? And we said, well, yeah, we can do it in Cantonese, because we just need to find some Cantonese speakers, and then we can do it. And we did it. And he got so excited that he included then his Asia Pacific marketing director. And she got so excited that she then referred it to head office in the US. and we're talking now about growing that experience for them internationally as well. Then there is a very large not-for-profit organization called the International Duke of Edinburgh Awards Program. This is for year 10 to 12 students to do good things in the world and challenge themselves. And this is, as I said, a not-for-profit organization. Now, they had a new CEO that wanted to come in and put the organization on a more commercial platform because, as he joked, the organization had taken the term not-for-profit a bit too seriously. and he just wanted to, she just wanted to make sure that the organization is sustainable and actually makes money and makes a profit and for a surplus in the first place. So we helped her understand the current status of the sales and marketing team. We actually helped her to understand that they didn't have a sales team and a marketing team because everybody just wants to be in promotions and nobody wants to be selling because it's a not-for-profit. And as a consequence of our 360-degree assessment, she then restructured the organization, got a whole bunch of new job description out. Everybody now knows exactly what they need to do and how they're going to be measured. And we also very nicely, by interviewing the customers, in this case the schools, we very nicely teased out additional requirements that they were not actually aware of. And that meant that they could provide a much better customer experience, and they've gone from strength to strength since. Then there's another one that's a quite well-known hardware vendor who wanted to transition from selling hardware to providing services, and they needed to reposition themselves, and they wanted to see how could marketing achieve that for them. And so we went and evaluated their current clients, and we said, what would you think of that, and what would it look like for you? So again, by talking to the customer as a neutral entity and not as their brand, the customers felt very comfortable talking to us about the things that they're not happy and about the things that they would really like to see. And because they knew that we wouldn't feed back to our client who said what, so it was all anonymized. We didn't quote people by name. We just said, your customers have told us these things. So our client will know exactly what was being said, but they just won't know who said it. So the people that we talk to can be very safe that there'll be no repercussion on whatever they tell us, so that they will be very comfortable telling us exactly what they think and really what they think, both in terms of good and bad. But does that answer the question, Anthony?
Absolutely, it does. And actually, you touched briefly on the 360-degree assessment. We had a question from Michelle just in regards to that. Can you talk a little bit about the timing that it takes to do that and implement this 360-degree assessment?
Okay, so the 360-degree assessment is the so if I just go back to this slide here, is the thing where we say, okay, we're going to talk about what does marketing think of sales and what does sales think of marketing, but then we also go and we say, what do customers think of the marketing effort and what do customers think of the sales effort all along the buyer's journey. So we look at a loyal customer, a prospective customer, and maybe an at-risk customer, and say, what do you think of this organization's marketing and sales efforts? And that really gives us fantastic insight into where is our client falling a bit short, where they're doing a great job, what things are they not doing that the customer would really like to see, and it really provides fantastic intelligence for our clients. Now, how long does it take? Well, it kind of depends on how many people you have in sales and whether they're just in one location or all over the place, how many people you have in marketing, and how far you want us to go with this program. So I would say, as a rule of thumb, it could go from just a few weeks to maybe 2 or 3 months.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much for that. Peter, we've got a number of other questions here that I'm going to probably provide to you after the webcast, but I know in the interest of time for everyone, I do want to go ahead and respect that. And I do know that there were a couple of other slides that we wanted to go over before we end it here. So I'm going to go ahead and allow you to do that. I believe we had a couple of things here that you wanted to go over. So I'm going to turn it back to you before we go ahead and close out the webcast.
All right, thank you, Anthony. So look, this is just a fantastic proverb that I found on the internet. It's apparently a Chinese proverb saying, "A man without a smiling face must not open a shop." So basically, think about your customer experience when you design your next initiative. And the last other thing is that I just wanted to say there is a special offer that I've made available to members of the AMA. If you contact me on any of these methods here, or you tweet me on at hash P Strohkorb, then I will be happy to provide a free half-hour online on Skype consultation to you in terms of how can you get marketing into your organization, provided that you fulfill a couple of criteria. So you must be an organization that's of a reasonable size, and you must be in a position where you can maybe not make a decision, but at least have an influential part in the organization, and then I'll make myself available to you free of charge for half an hour online to talk to you about how can you bring marketing into your organization, or if you've already got it, how can you make it more sustainable and make it last beyond the head office. Thank you, Anthony.
Absolutely, Peter. And just to point out to everyone, I did in the chat area just entered your Twitter handle there, even though we have it on the screen. Just if everyone wants to make note of it, if you do want to reach out to Peter and take him up on that offer, please do so. It's a great opportunity for you. So again, the hashtag P Strohkorb, send him a tweet, and he will be in touch with you. Okay. Peter, the other thing I wanted to mention, you touched on obviously at the beginning, and we learned a lot through the presentation here, is your book. I want to make sure that if everyone is interested in learning more about the book or getting a copy of it, you can easily go to Amazon and get it from there. If you just search from the book area on Amazon, you can search by Peter's name. Just enter his name in that area, and the book will come up for you there. So definitely look into that option if you want to learn more about all the great work that Peter has done here.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. And I'd just like to point out that if you go to my website, which has the URL there, or you go to theoneteammethod.com, you can actually download the first chapters free of charge and just check it out.
Excellent. Great opportunities all around here. Thank you so much, Peter. On behalf of the audience, again, this has really been a lot of wonderful information, and we really do appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anthony, and thanks everybody for joining me today.
And just a couple of quick reminders to everyone as we conclude the webcast. Again, you've got some contact information there if you want to reach out to Peter. You've got his email address as well as my email address if you've got any general questions either about AMA or today's webcast in general. So feel free to make note of either of those. As I stated at the beginning, too, all of this is being recorded and will be shared with you shortly via an email, so look for that coming your way very soon. To those of you that were able to join us on our hashtag today, we appreciate your engagement there. And if you weren't able to join, you can still go after the webcast and engage at hashtag AMAMOW. So once again, thank you to Peter, and thank you to all of you for joining us on this member-only webcast today. We appreciate your engagement here, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon on another AMA member-only webcast or AMA general webcast as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Have a great rest of your day.